Let's get right into it. So you're on this video because you want to learn how to make a QR code or how to use it, or maybe a quick explanation like, well, what is a QR code and why this all matters. So first thing, I'll get right into it. Super short explanation. A QR code is basically a code that people scan with their phone, and usually you'll find these things like on a sticker, on a business card, on a flyer, on even maybe on someone else's website, right? Or maybe a presentation, like let's say a overhead, or like a projector or something, and it's up on the screen, and you pull out your phone and scan it. So basically, a QR code helps somebody or saves you the time of having to send somebody a link or to type in a link or to, like manually just basically use your fingers. It saves you that trouble. And especially if it's like a super, super long link, you don't really expect somebody to type that all in, or even worse, have it to, copy it over and send it over to a group of people. So, anyways, very direct, very straightforward. QR code saves you having to type in a link or to send somebody a link. You can share with a lot of people, and it allows them to, go to the link whenever they want. All right. So, anyways, QR codes. I'm going to break it down into two separate types. Right? There's something called a dynamic QR code and a static, or like I guess a regular QR code, which basically means that if you change the link that QR code was attached to, and it's not a dynamic one, which is usually something you pay for and you have to like manage and stuff like that, it breaks. So an example, my website .com is accretiondigital.com. If I make a QR code that just goes straight to that, and tomorrow I change it to just like accretion.com and drop the digital or something on my website, it's going to break it because now it doesn't go to that new website. It goes to the old one. So I'm not going to get all technical. I could forward the domain and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. That's all like marketing stuff, and get to that stuff later in another video. But anyways, so you have to decide if you don't see yourself changing your website anytime soon, and if you don't see it actually, if you don't see the need for, needing to worry about a QR code that might be a year from now, right? Then just use a static one. It's free, it's simple, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. We'll get into the dynamic stuff. So anyways, you go to Google, right? You type in QR code, right? And one of the top websites that we use comes up right away. QR Code Monkey. QR Code Monkey is free. I give it a .com and it generates a code. All right, so I'll get right into it. So QR Code Monkey, I recommend. This one is also something you can use, but it's not. They try to upsell you a lot, and these are kind of connected. I can see that they kind of try to get you to go from this one to this one to get you to buy. I get it, but yeah, you want to use, if you're not, like, again, if you don't plan on changing it a lot, just do a QR code. I also don't recommend the Canva one, even though it's here, because it gives you trouble when you're trying to change it and download it. It makes you do another step. This is faster. If you make a QR code here, you're going to be able to save it in your phone, text it to anybody, use it on a flyer, email it to people. It's going to be like an official code that you can like move around. All right. Anyways, I'm going to put in my website here. I go to our website, copy the URL. You got to do like this, the whole thing, the HTTP, this whole front part too. So I just copy it there. There's my website, right? Now, when I go to messing with this, like turning on statistics, it's going to, again, you're going to have to pay for this. It says free to sign up, but they're going to like limit you on something. Colors. I'm sure you've seen a lot of pretty QR codes out there with like red, blue, maybe they even had the logo in the middle. They change like a couple colors. I don't recommend that. When you change the color, you're not considering that what happens if this QR code is scanned in a dark room or in a super bright room. These colors, and if the camera can't detect it right, it doesn't automatically adjust to like the sunlight or automatically adjust because the room is dark. It won't work. We've seen it fail. We've like made them really cool looking and like, just added a lot of flair to it, made like a super cool QR code, and then it doesn't work. And even worse, it is the day of an event. It is the day that you're presenting something, or the day that you really need it because you have a potential client, customer, follower, something, right? And it breaks. It doesn't work. And I'll tell you something. People won't scan this 10 times. They're going to scan it maybe once or twice and then say, hey, it's not working, and move on. So could be a lost opportunity there if you go too crazy with your QR code. All right, moving on to the next thing, the logo image. Yes, adding your logo is cool and it makes it look like extra, like official. We've done that before, right? We're a marketing company, been around for a couple of years. We've done that and it breaks. For some reason, the phones will not detect the dots in the back, or the logo's too bright or whatever it is, or it's black. So then it makes the camera, try to focus. It has a hard time. The phones are getting better, right, at doing that, but you're creating a margin for error, and I wouldn't do it. I would just avoid any chance of it going wrong. We don't know how much is riding on this, so I prefer that you do your you set up the QR code in a way that's not going to fail. All right. So anyways, but yeah, you could add this stuff like that, right? I can hit generate and it's going to put it in the back, right? I also recommend if you do want to use your logo to remove the background, remove any dots from the background so that it doesn't automatically get cut off like you just saw. Anyways, I recommend, like I said, removing it altogether. So making it look like this. And the last thing is you can upload, all these. Sorry, you can change the design of this. You can change the dots. You can make it again, all extra different, I guess. But you're just asking for things to go wrong. So I don't recommend it. All right. Moving on from this too, I think that's a paid service. So I wouldn't do that unless you're going to make sure you're going to pay for this. Now the last thing before I finish talking about this. As you can see here, they have a URL, text, email, phone, whatever. These QR codes can behave differently depending on what you want them to do. But I recommend sending this to like a link in bio, to your website, to one of those they're called like these I don't know, like these digital business cards where it has your name, email, all that stuff. Send it there. Save yourself the trouble of having to do this separately. Imagine making a QR code for your text, email, phone, and all these things, and then you do all that, and then you have to put 4 or 5 QR codes on one flyer or on one presentation. That's a lot of work. Just one QR code to one place that has all these links. That's the best way you can do it. If you have a dynamic QR code, though, obviously if you pay for these services, right, or whatever you use, there's a bunch of them out there. When you change the QR code link, you don't have to change the QR code itself. Because look at this. One thing to look at is if you, let me just go to google.com, just use that. So right now, this is the way it looks. Look what happens when I change it. The link. The design looks different now. See? So can't change your links on a static QR code, or I guess in other words, a free QR code. But it won't really matter if you send this QR code to a website, which you can change the phone number, email, and stuff like that without having to change the link. So if that makes sense. Now look at this. Last thing. All right. Now it's time to download it. Which one do you need? A PNG, right, is the most likely file type you're going to use. That's what you can use on Canva, your email. You can send it to, you can put it on a presentation, a Google slide, Google Doc. The PNG is going to be the most likely file type, right? That's for you, those of you guys that aren't sure because you deal with a lot of file types. Because you don't deal with a lot of file types. And lastly, your PDF is going to be a much higher quality of this PNG. But again, if you're going to use a PDF, that means you must be using some kind of graphic design software, like Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, some of those more advanced programs. And really, I don't see you needing a PDF, unless you're going to be designing a giant billboard. On a giant billboard, yes, you need a much higher quality graphic version of this, so that when you stretch it from, let's say, a laptop screen all the way up to a billboard size, right? We're talking about a lot of feet there. You're going to need a PDF, because that's going to allow you to stretch this design without it getting pixely. And pixely meaning that the edges get blurry, or you can just tell it's not clear anymore. It's almost like getting fuzzy. SVG is even more advanced version of a PDF. That is definitely for a graphic design software, or something where you're going to do a lot more higher level of editing. So PNG is almost 99% of the time what you're going to need. PDF, if you need to go way bigger, right? You're going billboard size. And then SVG, if you're planning on messing with this even further, like on a graphic design level. So hopefully that covers this video. I can now hit download PNG. Takes a second. All right. And then it downloads. And then now I can email this file. I can text this file. I can use it however I want. I recommend, though, after it downloads, you should actually change the name of the file so you can find it later. Rename the file to like in my case, I would be like Accretion Digital Accretion Digital homepage, right? Website homepage dash QR code or whatever. Because in the future, if you forget what this QR code is, you will email the wrong QR code to your graphic designer, to your web designer, to your assistant, and you will end up having a mistake where you guys sent it to the wrong place, right? So always try to name your files for future so you don't forget. because we're humans and we tend to forget. So you definitely want to make sure you've prepared yourself for when you do forget with naming the file type. All right, that wraps up QR codes, how to create them, and how to use them. Let's get right